Isla sat in her sunlit kitchen, scrolling through her phone while sipping her morning coffee. The house was quiet. Her husband, Aaron, had left for work early, and the kids were at school. To anyone looking in, her life seemed perfect. She and Aaron had been married for 12 years, their life filled with laughter, vacations, and milestones they celebrated as a team. But lately, Isla had felt restless. The routine of her life, once comforting, now felt suffocating. Aaron was a good man, reliable and kind, but the spark they once had seemed to dim over the years. She told herself it was just a phase, that every marriage went through ups and downs. Still, when Daniel entered her life, it was like flipping a switch. He was bold, flirtatious, and exciting, a sharp contrast to Aaron's steady nature. Daniel worked at the same gym Isla had recently joined, and their harmless banter quickly escalated into something much more dangerous. At first, it was just texts, flirty messages exchanged late at night when Aaron was asleep. Then came the secret meetings, lunches that turned into long afternoons in Daniel's apartment. Isla told herself it wasn't serious, just a way to reclaim some of the excitement she felt she'd lost. But what started as a fleeting thrill soon spiraled into something she couldn't control. "Don't worry," Daniel had said one afternoon as he set up his phone on a tripod. "This is just for us. No one else will ever see it." Isla hesitated, but the rush of being desired overwhelmed her better judgment. She let him hit record. Weeks passed, and Isla convinced herself that everything was fine. Aaron didn't seem to suspect anything. He was busy with work and the kids, and Isla knew how to cover her tracks. But her illusion of control shattered one Friday evening. Aaron came home from work later than usual, his face pale and tight with tension. Isla greeted him with a smile, but he didn't return it. Instead, he handed her his phone. "Care to explain this?" he asked, his voice low and steady in a way that sent chills down her spine. Isla glanced at the screen and felt her blood turn cold. It was a video of her and Daniel, one she thought no one would ever see. I don't know how this got out," Isla stammered, her mind racing. "How it got out?" Aaron repeated, his voice rising. "That's your response? Not 'I'm sorry.' Not an explanation for how you could do this to me, to us?" "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said weakly. Aaron's eyes darkened. "You didn't mean for this to happen? You didn't mean to betray me? To humiliate me like this?" The weight of his words hit Isla like a freight train. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away, his expression cold. "Don't touch me," he said. "I can't even look at you right now." Aaron turned and walked out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Isla stood frozen, her mind a whirlwind of panic and regret. She had no idea how the video had surfaced or how Aaron had found it. All she knew was that her carefully constructed facade had crumbled in an instant. And as she stared at the closed door, one thought consumed her. What happens now? The door slammed so hard the walls seemed to shake, leaving Isla alone in a suffocating silence. She stood frozen in the living room, staring at the spot where Aaron had just been. Her mind raced. She needed to act fast, to try to fix this before it spiraled further out of control. She grabbed her phone and dialed Aaron's number, but it went straight to voicemail. She tried again and again, each unanswered call amplifying her panic. Finally, she sent him a desperate text. "Isla, Aaron, please come back so we can talk. I'll explain everything. I'm so sorry." But no response came. Hours passed, and Isla's anxiety only grew. She tried to retrace her steps, to figure out how the video could have leaked. Daniel. He was the only one who had access to it. Isla didn't want to believe he would betray her, but the evidence was undeniable. She called him, her voice trembling with anger when he picked up. "What the hell did you do, Daniel?" she demanded. "What are you talking about?" he replied, feigning ignorance. "The video," she snapped. "Aaron saw it. How could you let this happen?" There was a long pause before Daniel sighed. "Look, I didn't do anything, okay? Maybe your husband's smarter than you gave him credit for." "Don't you dare blame this on me," Isla hissed. "You promised me no one else would see it." "And I kept that promise," Daniel said defensively. "If it's out there, that's on you, not me." The call ended with no answers and Isla's anger boiling over. She threw her phone onto the couch and buried her face in her hands. Everything was unraveling faster than she could control. Late that night, she heard Aaron's car pull into the driveway. She rushed to the door, her heart pounding, but when he walked in, the look on his face stopped her in her tracks. His eyes were red, and his expression was cold and calculating, a look she had never seen before. He didn't say a word, just walked past her and into their bedroom. "Aaron," Isla called after him, following hesitantly. "Please, can we talk?" He turned to face her, his voice low and filled with venom. "You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk about how you've destroyed everything we built together. Let's talk about how you threw away our marriage for, what? A fling? A thrill?" Tears streamed down Isla's face as she tried to explain. "It wasn't like that," she sobbed. "I wasn't thinking. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" Aaron interrupted, his voice rising. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. What you did was a choice. A deliberate, selfish choice." She reached for him, but he stepped back, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Don't," he said sharply. "I can't stand to be near you right now." "Aaron, please," Isla begged. "I'll do anything to fix this." He laughed bitterly. "Fix this? There's no fixing this, Isla. Do you have any idea what it feels like to see the person you love betray you so completely? To see it with your own eyes?" The weight of his words crushed her, and she sank to her knees, sobbing. "I'll end it with Daniel," she said desperately. "I'll cut him out of my life completely. Just don't give up on us." Aaron shook his head, his voice cold. "You think this is about him? This is about you. The person I thought you were doesn't exist." He turned and walked out of the room, leaving Isla alone with her guilt and regret. The next morning, Aaron was gone. His side of the closet was empty, his toiletries removed from the bathroom. Isla found a single note on the kitchen counter, written in his familiar handwriting. "Don't contact me. I need time to think. Take care of the kids." Her heart sank as she read the words, the finality of them hitting her like a ton of bricks. Aaron wasn't just angry. He was done. The days after Aaron left felt like an endless blur. Isla threw herself into caring for the kids, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. But every moment without Aaron was a reminder of how deeply she had broken their family. Her attempts to reach him were met with silence. She called, texted, and even drove to his office, only to be told by a receptionist that Aaron had taken an indefinite leave of absence. His friends wouldn't return her calls either. It was as if he had disappeared completely. One evening, as Isla was tucking the kids into bed, her son, Caleb, asked a question that pierced through her heart. "Mom, when's Dad coming home?" he said, his big, innocent eyes looking up at her. She forced a smile, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Soon, sweetheart," she lied. "He just needed a little break." Caleb nodded, satisfied with her answer, but Isla knew she couldn't keep up the facade forever. Sooner or later, the truth would come out. The truth, however, came sooner than she expected. Late one night, as she sat on the couch scrolling through social media, her heart stopped. A video had been uploaded to a community forum, a compilation of texts, photos, and clips of her affair with Daniel, set to dramatic music. The title read, "Betrayed, a Husband's Story." Isla clicked on it, her hands trembling. The video opened with a heartfelt introduction from Aaron, detailing their marriage. Would you confront the person your partner cheated with? Write in the comments. Marriage, their children, and the life they had built together. Then came the footage, the video she had made with Daniel, interspersed with screenshots of their messages. "I thought I knew my wife," Aaron's voice said over the clips. "I thought we were building a future together. But this is what I discovered." By the time the video ended, Isla's hands were shaking so badly she dropped her phone. The comments below the post were brutal, filled with strangers condemning her actions and offering support for Aaron. How could she do this? One commenter wrote, "He deserves so much better. This broke my heart to watch." Said another, "I hope he's able to move on and find someone who truly values him." Isla's mind raced as she tried to process what she had just seen. Aaron hadn't just left. He had made it his mission to expose her betrayal to the world. The fallout was immediate. Friends who had once been supportive began to distance themselves, their calls and texts growing sparse. At school drop-offs and grocery store runs, Isla could feel the weight of judgmental stares. It was as if everyone in town had seen the video. Her parents called the next day, their voices filled with disappointment. "Isla," her mother said, "we raised you better than this. How could you do this to your family?" Her father was less forgiving. "I don't even know who you are anymore," he said before hanging up. Desperate to contain the damage, Isla tried reaching out to Aaron again. She left him voicemails, pleading for a chance to explain. "Aaron, please," she said through tears in one message. "I know I hurt you, but putting this out there for everyone to see, that's not fair. Please call me back." But he didn't respond. Determined to understand how the video had leaked, Isla confronted Daniel. She showed up at his apartment unannounced, pounding on the door until he opened it. "What the hell, Isla?" he said, his face pale. "Why are you here?" "You know why," she snapped, pushing past him. "The video. How did Aaron get it?" Daniel looked genuinely nervous. "I don't know, okay? I didn't send it to him." "Then who did?" Isla demanded. Daniel hesitated, then said, "He probably found it himself." You'd be surprised how easy it is to hack into cloud storage. The realization hit Isla like a punch to the gut. Aaron had gone to great lengths to uncover the truth, and now he was using it to ensure everyone knew exactly what she had done. "You're on your own," Daniel said, his voice cold. "I don't want any part of this mess." Isla stared at him, her anger boiling over. "You're just as guilty as I am," she hissed. "Don't think you can walk away from this unscathed." Daniel shrugged. "Maybe, but at least I'm not married with kids." Isla left his apartment, her mind racing. Aaron's silence, the video, the complete isolation. This wasn't just anger. It was calculated revenge. He hadn't vanished without a trace. He had left a very deliberate one, ensuring she felt the weight of what she had done every step of the way. For the first time since this began, Isla realized just how much she had underestimated him. The fallout from Aaron's video reached every corner of Isla's life. At first, it was whispers, muted conversations that stopped abruptly when she walked into a room. But soon, the whispers became stares, judgmental glances from parents at the kids' school, neighbors who no longer waved from their porches, and old friends who conveniently forgot to return her calls. The isolation was suffocating. Isla had always prided herself on being well-liked in the community, but now she was the subject of relentless gossip. The video had transformed her from a respected mother and wife into a pariah. The final blow came at work. Isla had been a marketing manager for a mid-sized company, a job she had worked hard to secure. But even there, she couldn't escape the repercussions. Her boss called her into his office one Friday morning, his expression a mix of pity and discomfort. "Isla, we need to talk," he began, gesturing for her to sit. "What's this about?" she asked, though she already had a sinking feeling in her stomach. "There's been chatter," he said carefully. "Some of your colleagues have brought concerns to my attention about, well, your personal life." She felt her face flush with embarrassment. "My personal life has nothing to do with my job," she said firmly. "Ordinarily, I'd agree," he replied. "But given the nature of the situation and how public it's becoming a distraction. I'm afraid we have to let you go." The words hit her like a physical blow. "You're firing me?" she asked, her voice shaking. He looked genuinely regretful. "I'm sorry, Isla. It's not a decision we made lightly. You'll get a severance package, and I'm happy to write you a reference. But we need to protect the company's reputation." She left the office in a daze, clutching a box of her belongings. The walk to her car felt like an eternity, every step weighed down by the knowledge that her life was crumbling around her. That evening, after putting the kids to bed, Isla poured herself a glass of wine and sat at the dining table, staring at her reflection in the darkened window. She barely recognized the person staring back. She thought about calling Aaron again, but stopped herself. He had made it clear that he didn't want to be found. Instead, she tried reaching out to Daniel, but his number had been disconnected. She was truly on her own. As she sat there, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from a lawyer representing Aaron. Subject: formal divorce proceedings. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The email outlined Aaron's demands: full custody of the children, the house, and the majority of their shared assets. He was prepared to fight for everything, and given the evidence he had compiled, she knew he had a strong case. Desperation clawed at her as she tried to think of a way to salvage her situation. But every avenue seemed closed. Her parents were furious with her, her friends had abandoned her, and she had no income to fight a lengthy legal battle. The reality of her situation finally hit her. Aaron wasn't just taking revenge. He was erasing her from their lives. A week later, Isla received another blow. She was served with a restraining order filed by Aaron. It claimed that her actions had created a hostile environment for the children and that he wanted to ensure their safety. It wasn't true, of course, but the restraining order effectively limited her ability to see Grace and Caleb until the court date. For the first time, Isla truly understood the gravity of what she had done. Her choices had cost her everything: her husband, her job, her reputation, and now, even her children. Isla spent her nights combing through legal documents, trying to find a way to counter Aaron's claims. But the more she read, the more hopeless it seemed. Aaron had been meticulous in his planning, and there was little she could do to counter the narrative he had created. She thought about reaching out to the media to tell her side of the story, but she knew it would only make things worse. The world had already judged her, and nothing she said would change their minds. One evening, while scrolling through a forum discussing the video, she stumbled across a comment that stopped her cold. "Aaron was brilliant," it read. "He exposed her betrayal without saying a single lie. She did this to herself." The words echoed in her mind. She had done this to herself. For the first time, Isla allowed herself to confront the full weight of her actions. She had betrayed the man who loved her, destroyed the life they had built together, and for what? A fleeting thrill? And now she was paying the price. The court date for the custody hearing arrived faster than Isla anticipated. She sat in the courtroom, dressed in a conservative black dress that felt more like armor than clothing. Her lawyer had coached her extensively, but nothing could prepare her for the sight of Aaron sitting across the room, his expression unreadable. He looked different, stronger, more composed than she remembered. His confidence was a stark contrast to the guilt and anxiety that consumed her. The judge began proceedings, and Aaron's lawyer wasted no time presenting the evidence. How would you feel if your partner hid their affair for months or even years? Write in the comments. Evidence. The video was displayed as part of the case, its existence a damning testament to Isla's betrayal. She kept her eyes on the table, unable to look at the screen or the reactions of those in the room. Aaron spoke briefly, his words calm but cutting. "I'm here for my children," he said. "They deserve stability and a home free from deceit. I trusted Isla with my heart, my life, and my family, and she destroyed that trust. I can't risk her choices affecting our kids." Isla wanted to argue, to plead her case, but when it was her turn to speak, her voice faltered. She could see the judgment in the judge's eyes, the skepticism in the courtroom's atmosphere. "I made mistakes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I love my children. I would never hurt them, and I'll do whatever it takes to be a good mother." The judge listened but didn't respond immediately. The weight of the evidence against her was clear. A week later, the verdict came. Aaron was granted full custody of Grace and Caleb. Isla was allowed supervised visitation, pending a review in 6 months. The house was awarded to Aaron, along with the majority of their shared assets. Isla was left with little more than her car and a few personal belongings. The reality of her situation hit her like a freight train. She had lost everything. She moved into a small apartment on the edge of town, a far cry from the home she had shared with Aaron and the kids. The nights were the hardest, quiet and suffocating, filled with the memories of what she had thrown away. She began attending therapy, at first begrudgingly but eventually finding solace in the sessions. Her therapist didn't sugarcoat things, forcing her to confront the choices she had made and the damage they had caused. "Change doesn't come from guilt," her therapist said one evening. "It comes from action. You've made mistakes, but you're still here. What are you going to do with that?" Slowly, Isla began to rebuild. She took on freelance marketing projects, working long hours to make ends meet. She attended every visitation with her kids, even when it was painful to see them cry as they left her. Grace and Caleb were hesitant at first, their trust in her clearly shaken. But over time, small moments of connection began to reemerge. A shared laugh, a hug that lingered a little longer. One day, as Isla dropped the kids off after a visit, she found herself face to face with Aaron for the first time in months. He stood in the doorway, his expression guarded but not hostile. "Thanks for bringing them back on time," he said, his tone neutral. "Of course," she replied, her voice soft. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Aaron sighed. "How are you doing?" The question caught her off guard, but she answered honestly. "It's been hard," she admitted, "but I'm trying. For them." Aaron nodded, his expression unreadable. "Good. They need you to try." As she drove away, Isla felt a strange mix of emotions, sadness, regret, but also a glimmer of hope. She couldn't undo the past, but she could work toward a better future, even if it meant starting over from scratch. Her journey wasn't over, but for the first time, she felt like she was on the right path.